In 1620, while the Mayflower was in Provincetown, 18 of its men sailed in a small shallop, searching for a place to live. They came to present-day Eastham, where they were met by a group of Nauset. After a brief but violent encounter, the English left towards today's Plymouth. In 2020, we remember this first encounter. We explore its meanings for today and tomorrow.
Good evening. Welcome to our Sunset Series. I'm Thomas Ryan, Vice Chair of the Eastham 400 Commemoration Committee. I'm really pleased to welcome Edgar Miranda, who lives in Eastham. You were born in Puerto Rico, right?
Yes, I
and
was.
as an infant, your family moved to New York City.
That's correct.
And now you work with the Provincetown schools, and you're also a teacher at Framingham State University in the program for the Masters in International Education. Is that?
That's
Those are
100% correct. You got it all right.
A few of the many things one could say about Edgar. So I invited you to, because I want folks to hear about, tell us something about yourself, your experience, because the immigrants that we've shown on our series so far, as you know, viewers, have been mostly teenagers, which is great, and I love having young people. But I want to sort of have a sense of the life view of migration. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you'd like to say.
Sure thing. Well, I was born in Puerto Rico, and we moved back to New York City when I was probably about a year old. We lived down on the Lower East Side for a short time, and then we moved uptown to a housing project in East Harlem, and that's basically where I grew up. When I started elementary school, I was a non-English speaker, but even back then, I recall I was very, very fortunate that I had a teacher, a first grade teacher by the name of Ms. Shear, who went out of her way to give me one-on-one lessons in English when the other kids, I guess, will go out to special. So early on, I was being taught the key role that education and dedicated teachers can play in the life of a child, especially of an immigrant.
You did all of your grammar school, elementary school years there?
Well, I started, as I said, we started with PS 121, which if you go down 102nd Street and 3rd Avenue, Manhattan, it's still there. It's now PS 39. I started there, as I said, in first grade, and obviously I must have done okay picking up the language and the academics, because eventually my brother and I were transferred to another school just south of that school, and we were put into what was called back then an IGC program, intellectually gifted program. But then from there, I think the big turning point came in sixth grade, when there was an affirmative action program that was initiated by a very progressive school back then called New Lincoln School, and they offered full scholarships for my older sister, my brother, and myself. And from that point on, we received what I consider one of the most exceptional educations that anyone ever has. And again, it was through affirmative action. It was something that's sponsored by people who believed in the fact that education is the key to change lives, not only on a personal level, but certainly I think as far as helping communities to improve the quality of life.
So was your high school in the same general neighborhood, or where was your high school?
Oh, yeah, that was an interesting thing, because, as I said, New Lincoln was very progressive, and you had children who were attending there who were sons and daughters of some very well-to-do people. Harry Belafonte's daughters were students there. Joseph Heller, the author, his daughter was there. But it was located right on 110th Street between 5th and Lenox, which is Harlem, facing Central Park. So it was an interesting location for this very progressive school, but I think it was something that they felt very comfortable doing, because it also allowed the school to do some community outreach and offer programs for folks who lived near the school. So we used to walk to school every day. It was like a 20-minute walk, which was good. It was healthy, and it was a pretty area because you're passing Central Park every day.
That sounds like a very interesting high school education. So we're about halfway through this little conversation, so I want to jump ahead so we're not missing some of the juicy parts too. So what happened after high school?
Well, I made a decision after high school because, again, one of the things that I had been taught as I was growing up in East Harlem. We had mentors that from a group called the East Harlem Protestant Parish, which were basically consisted of a lot of clergy who had graduated from General Seminary and had come into East Harlem to work in terms of housing and education. It was part of that whole civil rights partnership that existed, where the idea was to take faith and apply it in very real ways in terms of pursuing social justice. So we were hearing that message about if the door of opportunity has been open to you, then you have an obligation to hold that door open for others that follow. So when I eventually graduated from college, the decision I made was to become a bilingual teacher, so I could work with children such as myself who were coming in and were non-English speakers and do everything possible to put them in the best possible position to succeed. So I have spent probably the last 50 years working as a teacher, principal, professor of education, just again, trying to convey that message and just that education can make a significant difference in the life of children, and we have to continue to strive for equal educational opportunity for all. It was a key priority during the civil rights movement, and I think it's something that we have to continue to do right now. If I could I just share a little story?
Please go ahead.
About, I share with people back in March of 2015, our mother passed away at age 93. And since I'm also clergy, I'm a retired United Methodist minister, the family asked if I would lead the service. And I remember at one point during this celebration, I take a look out at the congregation and I see our family, and the word that came to mind was legacy. And I'm thinking about my mother's legacy and what she had done. But I also thought of all those people in East Harlem, in the East Harlem Protestant Parish, at New Lincoln School. And I look at my sister, older sister, retired educator, PhD in education. I look at my brother, medical doctor, still serving in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I think about myself, again, educator for 50 years, principal, director. Then I look at the next generation. I look at our kids, 3 engineers, 3 teachers, a doctor, a physical therapist, and just felt a real sense of pride, but also it kind of just that recommitment about why we have to work hard in education. We came, if people had looked at our demographics, we came from Puerto Rico, poor, non-English speaking, a father who was an alcoholic, all the things that people will consider at risk that you can't overcome in the minds of some. But there were people who believed in us. And so now we have, again, 2 generations of folks that came from this situation that people would have considered failure. Definite failure, it wasn't. And all I think about, and that image comes to mind because we were given a chance, as people say, as we came from another country here, we weren't put in cages. We weren't separated from our family. We came and the family was able to remain intact, and we had people who advocated for us, and we were able to achieve a great deal of potential. And I think over the last few decades, we've been able to do a lot of good for our community. When I see what has happened over the last couple of years, especially the image of children in cages and the thought about families being separated and destroyed, it's like what a criminal waste of potential. How many doctors, how many teachers, how many lawyers, how many artists, how many musicians have been snuffed out now at these young ages because of these inhumane policies. So I think that the immigrants bring a great deal to this country, and I think if we give our kids a chance and we give the families a chance, everybody's going to benefit from it. So I guess that's probably what the message that I would like to leave.
what I would like to add just a little bit, I know only a little bit about East Harlem. I know that one of the factors you mentioned, the Protestant church there was instrumental in assisting you, because there were people there who believed in you.
Right.
And they believed in God and they believed in you. And I think of the kids caught at the border in Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, California. I know people in Catholic Charities. I know people who work down there who were trying to be good to them as the people were to you. But our own government doesn't allow the interaction of these people who could do so good for those kids. So I just wanted to add that little footnote that it's good that we have people who want to help.
Yeah, and if I could add just the other thing I do want to mention, East Harlem Protestant Parish was an ecumenical movement, so it wasn't just Protestants. It was Protestants and a number of the Catholic churches working together. But again, we talk about sins of commission, sins of omission. There's times we should do something and we don't, but I think in the case of these policies, these are clearly violent sins of commission, when the intent is to keep people away who are there to help. When people get arrested for leaving water in the desert, for those who, I mean, where does that come from?
There are many dark stories to tell.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with
My
us and
pleasure.
having the courage to share about your life and about those horrible realities that our world is facing. Thank you very much, Edgar.
Thank you. My pleasure.
My name is Joanna Hollick, and I'm the coordinator of the Sunset Series with Eastham 400. I'd like to thank you for all of your support of the Sunset Series over the past few months. Although the Sunset Series is drawing to a close, this is not the end of Eastham 400 events. In the coming months, we will hold a variety of different events and programs. An example of such programs is a sunrise service that will be taking place at 7 a.m. on December 8th, the 400th anniversary of the first encounter. I encourage you to check Eastham 400's website, www.eastham400.org, to stay updated on upcoming events and other projects that we are working on. Thank you.